Moving on, while most eyes are focusing on security, the coalition is still scrambling to keep it together in the wake of Yamina MK Idit Silman's resignation. With me to respond is Jeremy Saltan, political strategist and director for English operations with the Prime Minister's Yamina party. Jeremy, it's great to have you back with us. So what does Yamina make of Silman's defection, and how are you stemming the tide?
Well, what has been happening, and really we saw this from the formation of the government, then maybe it was a little bit easier, but over recent weeks it has gotten a lot worse, is really the high level of toxicity and negativity being thrown at all of the ministers, MKs, advisors, and the relevant people that are a little bit further down the list within the Yamina faction. I can tell you myself of the amount of stuff that gets directed towards me on social media, people that come up to me on the street. And I know, having spoken to Idit Silman, that of course she was dealing with it at a much higher level. We're talking about things being said to her by people who are the caretakers of her children in the various frameworks that she sends them to, not being able to go out and attend the synagogue, having people screaming at her, following her. This is just not the way that we expect the public discourse to work in a democracy.
Well, Jeremy, I mean, that's certainly the line that you and, of course, previously Prime Minister Bennett have been making. But what do you make of Silman's reasoning? She and Amichai Shikli, for example, argue that the coalition, and specifically Yamina, has betrayed its voters.
I know Idit Silman for the last decade, and I can tell you that, even last week, we did not see her saying anything of the sort. And I'm sorry, but I haven't seen anything really change from last week to this week. It is very, very, very clear that it is because of the bullying, because of the trolling, because of all of the situation of negativity and toxicity being thrown towards her and her direction and her family members and her friends. Again, I remember already from the time of entering the government, you had a list of a poster with our faces on it, with a list of family members and friends of each person. You had an actual telephone operation going on to try to influence the various people around each one of the individuals to try to get them to break. Again, just look at Idit Silman's public remarks throughout the last 10 months. She was our chief whip, the coalition chairwoman. Okay, she was the one that helped us make sure just a few weeks ago that we went ahead and passed very important bills, such as the citizenship law for national security reasons. So again, I understand that the opposition is very happy with the current situation, and they're going to try to say that this has something to do with content.
Well, and that really brings me back to my original question. How are you going to stop other MKs from following her lead, regardless of whether or not it's pressure or ideological in nature?
Look, well, first of all, we're still hoping that Idit will come back home. And I think that there is a chance for that to happen. The Knesset is still in recess for another month. There's no vote coming up. There's, of course, a list of things that have been brought to the table. If you're looking at the requests made by Nir Orbach and MK from within our faction. Sure. And again, if you look at the list of these things are just things that were in the coalition agreement. These are just things that were understandings between Yamina and everybody else. This is a coalition crisis, no different than any of the other coalition crises. The way to resolve them is for all the parties in the coalition to live up to the signed agreements and the understandings that have been made since the formation of the government.
Well, so then in the meantime,
we're here.
Well, Jeremy, in the meantime, let's say that nobody then leaves the government. Just to maintain, you still don't have a majority. How are you going to maintain an effective governance without that majority in the coalition?
You'll have to make surgical deals on the bills that are of most, importance to be able to get that extra vote. And again, I'm still in a situation where I do think it's very possible that Idit comes back. If Idit doesn't, there are other people within the opposition who might take over that 61st slot. Let's look at the numbers.
We'll see how it turns out then.
At 60, Netanyahu only has 54.
All right,
that is a huge gap.
We'll see how it turns out then. Jeremy, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you.